If you asked my parents, they'd tell you I've been a disappointment since the day I was born. At least, that's how it felt growing up. You're too serious, my mom would sigh whenever I tried to talk about school. Why can't you be more like your brother? My dad would ask, shaking his head like I had personally let the entire family down just by existing. Meanwhile, more like my brother meant Eric, the golden child, the prodigal son who could do no wrong even when he did literally nothing. He never had a job, never paid a bill, and somehow managed to convince my parents that he was destined for greatness. Greatness never arrived, but excuses did. He's just trying to find his path. He's creative, you don't understand. He struggles. And me. I wasn't creative, or golden, or struggling. I was just responsible. I worked full-time, paid my rent, and, as it turned out, paid a lot of their expenses too. Groceries, utilities, even chunks of the mortgage when Dad's hours were cut at work. If something broke, I fixed it. If the fridge was empty, I filled it. If they needed a new washer, I ordered it and had it installed. They never thanked me. Not once. At best, I got a half-hearted, "Oh, you're so good with money," before the conversation shifted back to Eric's future plans. Plans that never materialized. It's funny, though. You can spend years convincing yourself that maybe it doesn't matter. That maybe helping them is just what family does, even if they never really see you as family. That was me. I kept sending the checks. I kept answering the texts that only showed up when bills were due. I told myself I was building goodwill, that someday it would mean something. That illusion shattered on a quiet Sunday afternoon when I was helping Dad sort through paperwork. I was scanning documents for him. Insurance forms, property tax stuff, boring adult tasks that, surprise, he couldn't be bothered to figure out himself. I had done this 100 times before, and I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. Then, halfway through the stack, I saw a folder labeled, Estate Plan and Last Will and Testament. I froze. Look, I wasn't snooping. At least not at first. But after years of being their unpaid safety net, wasn't I entitled to at least know how they saw me in the bigger picture? Did they consider me at all? Did they understand that, without me, half of their so-called stability would have collapsed years ago? So yeah, I opened it. And what I saw made my stomach drop. Everything, and I mean everything, was going to Eric. The house, the savings, the retirement fund, even Dad's old coin collection that I'd helped him catalog as a kid. All of it. My name wasn't anywhere except for one generic line: "We love both our sons equally." Equally. I stared at that page so long my vision blurred. My hands were shaking, not from anger, not yet, but from something deeper. Betrayal. Years of quiet sacrifices, years of being their safety net, and they had already decided I was disposable. The failure. The one who didn't matter. "Hey, what's taking so long?" Dad's voice broke my trance. He came back into the room, saw the will in my hands, and for a split second his face went pale. Then he sighed, like I was a child throwing a tantrum over nothing. "Jake, it's not what you think." I looked at him, my voice low and flat. "Everything goes to Eric? After everything I've done for you?" His jaw tightened. "It's complicated." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just those two useless words. For the first time in years, I felt something snap inside me. And that was only the beginning. I didn't drop it. Not this time. When Mom walked in and saw me holding the will, she froze. She looked guilty for half a second, then pasted on that sweet, careful smile she always used whenever she wanted to control the narrative. "Jake, honey," she said gently, like I was a stubborn child. You don't need the inheritance. You have a good job, you're independent. Eric. Well, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of. I swear, if there had been a camera in the room, you would have seen the exact moment my patience evaporated. I'd been paying their mortgage, their bills, their groceries, their repairs, all while Eric struggled from the comfort of their couch. And instead of admitting it, instead of acknowledging a single thing I'd done, they brushed me off like I was disposable. Got it, I said, setting the will down on the table. My voice was calm, almost too calm. Glad to know where we stand. Jake, don't be dramatic, Mom snapped, her softness evaporating in an instant. You've always been too sensitive. That word again. Sensitive. They used it like a weapon, every time I pushed back even slightly. I used to swallow it, used to shrink under it. Not anymore. I picked up my coat, walked out of the house, and ignored their protests as I slammed the door behind me. For the first time in years, I didn't call. I didn't check in. I didn't send money. When the next grocery bill came, I let it sit. When the water heater broke, I didn't come running with my tools. When the mortgage was due, I didn't cover it. I thought maybe they'd reach out, not with demands, but with something real. An apology. An acknowledgement. A single shred of gratitude. Instead, 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Dad, property taxes are due. That was it. No hi. No, how are you? No sorry about the will. Just a cold, transactional order. I stared at the screen, and for the first time, I laughed. Actually laughed. It was so predictable it was pathetic. I typed back, I'm sure Eric will handle it, since the house is his and all. It took less than 5 minutes for my phone to light up with Mom's name. I didn't answer. Then came another text. Mom, Jake, please don't be like this. We need to talk. Oh, now they wanted to talk. Now that the bills were piling up. Now that reality was setting in. I waited an hour before replying. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Live with it. I figured that would be the end of it for the night. But then Eric decided to chime in. Eric's text came late that night, and the second I saw his name pop up, I knew it was going to be something obnoxious. Eric, dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal. Just help them out like you always do. I almost dropped my phone from laughing so hard. Not a big deal? I had just discovered that my entire existence in my parents' eyes boiled down to being their free financial safety net, and Eric, the guy who hadn't worked a real job in years, was calling me dramatic. I typed back, no, I think you've got it covered since you're the favorite and all. 3 dots appeared. Then his reply came fast. Eric, oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up, man. It's just money. That word. Just money. Just sensitive. Just dramatic. Always minimizing. Always dismissing. I shot back, then you won't mind using some of that money to pay the mortgage, right? Silence. No dots this time. No reply. Instead, my phone lit up again, this time with Mom's name. Mom. Jake, we're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up and now you're just abandoning us. I had to put the phone down because I was shaking, not with guilt, but with anger so sharp it felt like my hands might split open. Abandoning them? I had spent years making sure they never struggled, while they coddled Eric and rewarded his laziness. And now, because I finally refused to be their ATM, I was the bad guy? I typed back slowly, carefully, each word like a blade. You made it clear I wasn't part of the family when you left me out of the will. Now Eric can take care of you." I could practically hear her gasp through the phone. Mom had always been a master of guilt trips, but that one line landed like a hammer. 5 minutes later, another text came in, this time from Dad. "Dad, we're not asking for much. Just enough to cover the mortgage for a few months until things stabilize." I stared at it, shaking my head in disbelief. They didn't want a conversation. They didn't want to fix anything. They just wanted money. And for the first time, I felt something new. Not guilt. Not resentment. Freedom. I set the phone down, turned it off, and went to bed smiling. But of course, things didn't stay quiet for long. For about a week, the silence was golden. No calls, no texts, no obligations. I went to work, came home, cooked for myself, and for the first time in years, felt like I was living for me and not for everyone else's emergencies. Then, one Saturday morning, there was a pounding on my door. I opened it, and of course, Eric. He stood there with his hands shoved into the pockets of his hoodie, smirking like he had already won some imaginary argument. "Dude," he said, rolling his eyes. "What is your problem? You're really gonna make Mom and Dad suffer over some stupid piece of paper?" I leaned against the doorway. "Funny, I thought you'd be busy figuring out how to pay the mortgage since you're the one inheriting the house." His smirk faltered for a second, but he bounced back fast. "Don't be ridiculous. You know they can't handle this stuff without you. You've always been the responsible one." There it was. The same line they'd all been feeding me for years. I was the responsible one. Translation: the free labor, the free money, the built-in safety net they never had to thank. I crossed my arms. "No, Eric. What they can't handle is the reality of enabling you for decades. And I'm done cleaning up after it." His face hardened. "Wow. Real nice, Jake. You think you're some hero because you pay a few bills? Newsflash, nobody asked you to play martyr. You chose to do it, so don't turn around and act like they owe you something." I actually laughed at that. A sharp, humorless sound. "You're right, Eric. Nobody asked me. Because nobody ever had to. I just stepped up while you sat on your ass and watched. And the thanks I got. Being cut out completely, like I'm nothing." Eric shifted uncomfortably, his bravado cracking. But instead of backing down, he doubled down, his voice rising. "You've always been jealous, man. Admit it. You hate that they love me more. That's what this is really about." For a moment, I just stared at him. The golden child, standing on my porch, trying to rewrite years of neglect into some pathetic rivalry. "No," I said finally, my voice steady. "I don't care that they love you more. What I care about is respect. And I've realized they'll never give it to me. So now, they get nothing. From me. Ever again." Eric's jaw worked like he wanted to say something else, but no words came out. He muttered a curse under his breath and stormed off, slamming my gate so hard it rattled. I watched him leave, a strange calm settling over me. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was free. Or at least, I thought I was. Because 2 days later, Mom showed up herself. It was a Tuesday evening when the knock came. Not the frantic, angry pounding like Eric's. This was soft, deliberate, almost rehearsed. I opened the door and there was Mom, standing on my porch with her cardigan wrapped tight around her shoulders like she was the star of some tragic play. Her eyes were already glassy, her lips trembling, the full performance ready to go. "Jake," she whispered, as if saying my name out loud might shatter her. Can we talk? I sighed, stepped aside, and let her in. She perched on the edge of my couch like she was afraid to get comfortable, clutching her hands together. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she started. Your father and we're worried about you. This behavior isn't like you. You've always been our reliable one, our responsible boy. I don't know why you're punishing us like this. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Punishing you? That's rich. I stopped paying your bills for the first time in years, and suddenly I'm cruel? You do realize what you left me out of, right? Her chin trembled. Oh, Jake. The will. You're still upset about that. She gave a practiced little sigh, like I was being childish. You don't need it, sweetheart. You have a career, stability. Eric, he needs more help than you do. It doesn't mean we love you any less. I felt my jaw clench. You cut me out completely. Not a car, not a watch, not even a family photo. Nothing. Don't stand here and tell me that doesn't mean anything. She shifted, her voice rising with sudden sharpness. You always twist everything into an attack. You've always been so serious, so. She stopped, catching herself, then softened again. Jake, honey, you know family isn't about money. It's about loyalty. About being there for each other. Funny, I said, my tone flat. Because when I was there for you, every single month, every single crisis, none of that counted as loyalty. It just counted as expected. But the one time I stop, suddenly I'm betraying you. Her mask cracked then. The tears came fast, but they felt hollow, like a script she'd rehearsed too many times. We raised you, she said through sobs. We gave you everything, and now you're abandoning us when we need you most. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not cruelly, but bitterly. You gave me everything? Mom, I've been your safety net since I was 21. You didn't raise me to stand on my own. You raised me to hold you up. And I'm done. Her face hardened. The tears stopped instantly, like a faucet shut off. You'll regret this, she hissed, standing abruptly. Family is all you have, Jake. When they're gone, you'll wish you'd been better to us. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. I stood there in the silence of my apartment, my heart pounding. And for the first time, I realized, maybe I wasn't just cutting them off financially. Maybe I was finally cutting myself free. But the fallout was only just beginning, because a week later, word spread to the extended family. The first sign came from my cousin Claire. She texted me out of the blue. Claire, hey, are you really refusing to help your parents? Everyone's talking. I don't get it. You've always been the responsible one. I stared at the message, my jaw tight. Responsible one. There it was again, that cursed title I'd carried my whole life. It never meant respect. It meant obligation. I didn't answer. But by the end of the week, it was clear my parents had launched a full-blown PR campaign against me. An aunt left me a voicemail dripping with passive-aggressive pity. Jake, sweetie, your poor parents are struggling. You know Eric isn't cut out to manage things. It's not fair to leave them high and dry. Don't let pride ruin your family. An uncle posted something vague on Facebook about kids these days abandoning their elders when they should be grateful. It didn't have my name, but the comments from family members made it obvious who he meant. And then came the kicker, my parents themselves. They sent a mass email to the extended family explaining how heartbroken they were that I'd turned my back on them. The subject line read, "We raised a failure." I read it 3 times, unable to breathe. They had actually used the word failure. Not behind my back this time. Not whispered in frustration. Written. Broadcasted. Sent to dozens of people. My hands shook as I scrolled. They painted me as selfish, ungrateful, cold. They claimed I had abandoned them for money. They painted Eric as the victim, struggling but brave, and themselves as poor aging parents who just wanted a little support. The replies poured in within hours. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. Some told me to swallow my pride. Others outright called me a disgrace. I sat in my apartment, my phone buzzing non-stop with notifications, and for the first time I felt something heavier than anger. Shame. Not because I believed them. I knew the truth. But because my own family, the people who should have known me best, believed the worst version of me without a second thought. That night, I turned my phone off completely. I sat in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Then I remembered the will. The cold dismissal. The way they'd cut me out like I was nothing. And suddenly, the shame melted into something else. Resolve. If they wanted a villain, I'd play the part. But not the way they expected. Because if they thought I was finished standing up for myself, they hadn't seen anything yet. I lasted 3 days with my phone turned off before the messages found another way in. Emails, Facebook tags, even a handwritten letter shoved under my apartment door by my aunt. They wanted me cornered, pressured into caving. And maybe that would have worked once. But not anymore. On the 4th night, I turned my phone back on. My notifications blew up instantly. Dozens of messages, missed calls, group chats exploding with concern. One in particular stood out. Uncle Ray, you should be ashamed. Your parents gave you everything, and you repay them by abandoning them in their time of need? Disgraceful. That was it. That was the match. I opened my laptop and started typing. Not an apology. Not a private message. A full post, public, tagged to family, no room for anyone to twist it. Since everyone seems so invested in my failure, let me clear a few things up. For the past 7 years, I've been the one paying half my parents' mortgage. I've paid their property taxes. I've bought their groceries. I've fixed their house every time something broke. Meanwhile, Eric hasn't held a job, hasn't paid a bill, and yet somehow he's the golden child. You all want to talk about abandonment. They abandoned me a long time ago, when they wrote me out of their will and left me nothing, not even a mention, while giving Eric everything. So no, I'm not paying their bills anymore. If that makes me a failure in your eyes, then fine. But at least I'm no longer a fool. I hit post. Within minutes, the comments started rolling in. A few relatives doubled down, saying money wasn't the point, that I was still being cold-hearted. But others, people who had stayed quiet before, began to speak up. My cousin Jenna, wait, you've been paying their mortgage? Are you serious? My Aunt Linda, Eric hasn't worked in years? And they still treat him like the favorite. Even some of the people who'd called me selfish earlier suddenly backtracked. Well, we didn't know the whole story. Of course they didn't. My parents had been curating their version of the truth for years, and I'd been too quiet to fight it. Not anymore. By the next morning, Mom had left me a voicemail, her voice tight with fury. How dare you air family business online? You've humiliated us, Jake. You've humiliated me. I listened twice, then deleted it. Because the truth was out now. The image of me as the failure was cracked, maybe even shattered. And my parents were the ones exposed. But if I thought that was the end, I was wrong. Because Eric wasn't about to let me take the spotlight away from him. It didn't take long for Eric to crawl out from whatever hole he'd been hiding in. The morning after my post, he went on Facebook with a wall of text that screamed damage control. Eric's post. Everyone needs to stop attacking my parents. Jake is twisting things. He chose to pay their bills because he's obsessed with money and control. Nobody asked him to. My parents just wanted to make sure I was okay since I've had a harder time in life. That doesn't make them bad parents, it makes them loving. Jake's just bitter because he can't stand that I'm the favorite. Sad. I almost spit out my coffee. Obsessive? Bitter. The man-child who hadn't worked in years was trying to spin me into the villain again. But the replies. Oh, the replies. Cousin Jenna again. Wait. So you admit Jake was paying everything? And you were doing what, exactly? Uncle Ray, who'd called me disgraceful 2 days earlier. Eric, if Jake really covered all those bills, maybe you should be thanking him instead of trashing him. Even strangers, family friends I barely knew, chimed in. Eric, this isn't a good look. You're grown. Take some responsibility. Eric tried to clap back, but every reply dug him deeper. At one point he wrote, "It's not like I could just get a job, okay? I have anxiety." That was it. The thread exploded. Some people defended him, sure, but most weren't buying it. Years of excuses unraveled in real time, and for once, the spotlight wasn't flattering. I didn't even need to respond. He was self-destructing publicly, the golden child shine finally wearing off. By that evening, he'd deleted the entire post. But it was too late. Screenshots were everywhere, floating in group chats, text chains, even in the extended family email thread where my parents had first smeared me. And then, silence. No more texts. No more guilt trips. Not from Eric, not from Mom, not from Dad. It was like they had finally realized the narrative had slipped out of their control. For the first time in my life, they couldn't spin me as the failure. But I knew my parents, silence didn't mean surrender. It meant they were regrouping. And I was right. Because 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Not typed. Not emailed. Handwritten by Dad. And what it said nearly made my blood boil. The envelope was thin, my name scrawled across it in Dad's messy handwriting. For a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, it would hold something resembling an apology. Some admission that they'd been wrong. I should have known better. Inside was a 3-page letter. The tone was painfully familiar. Not loving, not apologetic. Condescending. Jake, it began, we're disappointed in how you've handled yourself. Airing family business online was cruel and unnecessary. You've embarrassed us in front of relatives, friends, even the community. People are talking. Do you feel proud of yourself? I clenched my jaw as I kept reading. He went on about sacrifice. How they had worked so hard to give me a good life. How I was forgetting all the things they'd done for me as a child. Then came the dagger. We always knew you lacked Eric's charisma. You were never as bright, never as easy to love. But we thought at least you'd be dependable. We thought you understood duty. Clearly, we were wrong. I stopped. My hands were shaking, but not from hurt this time. From rage. I flipped to the last page. Dad's closing line read, "You can still fix this, son. Pay the mortgage for the next year. Prove to us that you're not a failure. If you do this, maybe we can revisit the will." That was it. No remorse. No reflection. Just manipulation, sealed in an envelope. I set the letter down slowly, then laughed. Not the bitter laugh this time, but the kind that bursts out when you finally see the truth so clearly it's almost funny. They hadn't written me out of the will because they thought Eric deserved more. They'd done it because they believed I'd keep paying anyway. That no matter how badly they treated me, I'd still foot the bill. I wasn't just their son, I was their insurance policy. And for the first time, I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel betrayed. I felt free. I tore the letter in half. Then into quarters. Then into scraps so small no one could tape it back together. The failure they'd spent years dismissing had finally failed them, in the best way possible. But the real ending came a month later, when I ran into Eric at the grocery store. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when I spotted him. Eric, standing in the middle of the grocery store, staring at a shelf of instant noodles with the kind of dazed panic you only see in people who've just realized the world doesn't revolve around them. He didn't notice me at first. He looked thinner, scruffier. His hoodie was stained, his sneakers falling apart. For once, the smug grin was gone. When he finally turned and saw me, his eyes widened. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I almost walked past him. I had no reason to stop. But something in his expression made me pause. "Hey," I said evenly. He swallowed hard. "Jake, listen. Things have been rough. The mortgage, the bills, everything. I can't. I don't." His voice cracked, and for the first time in my life, I realized my brother, the golden child who always coasted, always relied on excuses, was drowning. I didn't gloat. I didn't throw his words back at him. I just looked at him and said, "Yeah, that's called responsibility. Welcome to it." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "So that's it? You're just gonna leave me?" "Leave them?" I shook my head. "No, Eric. I'm leaving me with something I've never had before. Freedom. Respect. My own life. You can figure out yours." I grabbed my basket and walked away. He didn't follow. By the time I left the store, the rain had eased, and for the first time in years, I felt light. Like a weight I didn't even know I'd been carrying had finally slid off my shoulders. They had called me a failure. For years, they treated me like I didn't matter, like I was nothing more than a wallet with legs. But the truth was clear now. I wasn't the failure. They were. And the moment I stopped paying their bills, I finally stopped paying the price for their mistakes. For the first time in my life, I was free.